welcome to Urban Media Institute's Town Hall Forum on youth violence and how it affects us. My name is Corey Warren, Editor-in-Chief of the Cannon newspaper, and I will be your moderator. Joining our discussion will be Officer Mike Wally, Coach and staff member Mr. Mims, and Pastor Mr. Ellison from 10 Point Coalition. Today we'll be discussing the violence in its entirety, possible solutions, and alternatives to violence. I'll let the panelists reintroduce themselves and say a little bit more about themselves, and then I'll throw in a general question to let you guys answer. We could start with Officer Mike Wally, please.
Like she said before, my name is Officer Michael Wally with the Indianapolis Metropolitan Police Department. I currently serve on the Community Affairs branch, more specifically with the Youth Violence Reduction Team, where we identify and target youth that have been involved with violent crimes such as stab wounds, shootings, or fights or things of that nature. And we help mentor and provide social services for them. It's a partnership with Health and Hospital, specifically Wisher Hospital, and the 10 Point Coalition as well.
I'm an advocate for my students, for this community, and I'm born and raised here in Indianapolis, and it is time for a change.
I am Pastor Charles Ellis. I pastor 25th Street Baptist Church here in the city of Indianapolis, and I also serve on the board of the Indianapolis 10 Point Coalition. From 2006 to 2011, I served as the executive director of the Indianapolis 10 Point Coalition.
What I have for you guys is, do you think that today's music has a big influence on the youth?
Would you like to start?
Yeah.
Does music have an impact on today's youth in regards to violence? The easy answer, yes. I think music throughout history has been responsible for fueling political movements, social movements, and things of that nature. So the easy answer is yes, I do feel that music does greatly impact violence amongst the youth. Anytime you have music that tends to promote or depict violence as the way to success or the way to handle things, and it's readily available to anyone, it serves as a subliminal message of how to do that. So the short answer is yes, I do feel that music does greatly impact violence.
I also feel that music does influence violence amongst youth. Not only what the artists say in their lyrics, but also what the artists do just out in the community, out in the public, what's viewed. Unfortunately, most of what the artists do in a negative aspect is what's reported. However, there are artists that do positive things in their communities and for the people and just for youth around the nation, but it's not it's not brought to the forefront like the negative things that they do. So yes, I do feel that way. Unfortunately, the artists don't realize the impact that they do have. Some of them do, and they don't care. But I think that that's something that we also need to look at.
But again, the short answer is yes. All our messages, I think, do affect us.
Welcome back to the Tech Town Hall series presented by the Urban Media Institute. We're back with Officer Michael Wally, Coach and staff member Mr. Mims, and Pastor Mr. Ellis. We're going to take questions from the audience now.
Hello, my name is Dominique, and my question is, young kids today only know what they see. What are ways to show young kids that it's more than just violence in our community? What are positive things that we can do to help young kids understand that it's not just violence?
I think one way to handle that is to maybe in school districts partner older students with younger students. Sometimes it's kind of like the big brother and big sister effect. You want to be a good example for your for your little brother or your little sister. You don't want to lead them in the wrong direction. And at the same time, that will help you grow and learn, how to handle some situations better and maybe make some right choices. I know myself as a parent, some things I do now, I didn't do those things before I was a parent. And becoming a parent and having someone, you know, to care for and look after helped me to grow and mature as an adult. And so I think that that kind of same relationship, having maybe a little brother or a little sister, quote unquote, for, you know, partnering older students with younger students, will help students grow and want to be a good example.
I also think we have to celebrate different things that we celebrate. We celebrate our sports, and I'm a sports person, coach. So but we got to celebrate academics. We got to celebrate students that do well, that excel, and I think these would also help people's vision widen, other than the person that quote unquote seems to make it on the street or through violence. So I think we need to put our priorities as a society and as a community of what we celebrate. I think that's important.
To piggyback on that, what Pastor Ellis was just saying, I think growing up as a child in my household, I was told, you know, idle mind is the devil's workshop. I think a key to preventing violence and or the propensity for violence to occur is to get our youth busy. Times are hard, economical depression has set in, schools are losing funding for sports activities and things of that nature. But I think sports in particular, clubs, club sports, different teams, anything that can keep someone busy off the street will help not only develop time management, decision making, and other aspects that you learn as an adult that are very important. I think if we can get kids off the street and busy doing something, they don't have the time to sit around and come up with new ways of bullying someone or getting in fights or committing crimes and things of that nature.
I will take another question from the audience.
Hi, my name is Vadrana, and my question is for our youth that lives in neighborhoods that have such high crime rates and violence, where would be a safe and positive place for them to go besides school where they can interact with other kids instead of be in their neighborhoods where it's violence? Like, what places can they go to?
I can tackle that one easy. Growing up, for me, it was the church. Pastor Ellis, I know, will be an advocate of that. There's your local community clubs that are still open. There's police precincts that you can come by and say hi. There are, like I said, keeping busy with sports and other things like that. And then within your own neighborhood, actually taking ownership of your neighborhood. When you see things happen, you can report them. It's as easy as, I think we have a new texting system where you can report anonymously via text messages, and then you can also call anonymously. So if you see stuff happening or things starting to occur, you can call and we can get a jump on it.
And let me jump in and piggyback on Officer Wiley in the sense of, because I think it's important to speak out when something goes wrong. And I know the code on the street and the whole idea about being a snitch. And please understand that there are people, because sometimes we look at and we say there are not enough venues for youth to go and just have a good time. And the vast majority of youth want to just go somewhere and have a good time. However, there are enough that do not want to have a good time. They do ruin it for everybody. But then those who see things happen and don't get involved, then you become complicit in that. And you know, and the word on the street is, oh, you're a snitch, you're a snitch. No, you are preventing somebody ruining it for everybody. They don't want to have a good time and they want to engage in violence, then, you know, there's a special place for them. And Officer Wiley can show them the way. But for the vast majority, don't allow others to mess that up. And so we've got to change our thinking in that manner.
The only thing I'd like to add is to challenge the youth. Do some research. You know, you guys love being on the internet. You know, I hear a lot of kids say, oh, I Googled that or I Googled someone. Do some research on what's available for you in your community. It doesn't necessarily have to be kind of like a mainstream program, but there are a lot of programs that people are trying to get up off the ground, and they just need participants. So do your research and find out what's available in your community, you know, and then maybe bring it to attention to someone at your school and say, hey, I found this program for kids after school or something like that, and then maybe, you know, a staff member at your school can help you get connected with it, and you never know. You may help someone else out who's in maybe in more dire straits than you.
Okay, it's time for another break. When we come back, we'll be checking our live Twitter feed and then answering questions from there. Welcome back. Today we are discussing violence and how it affects the youth. Now we'll go to our live Twitter feed and ask questions or answer questions from the community. I have a question from @IHaveAVision, and the question is, how can students be looked at as a solution rather than a problem of violence?
I'll jump into that. I think this is one of the ways right here. This is a perfect example. Anytime you get a group of students together in a forum and you add in people who are making decisions with law, business, church, and we can get them together and come up with solutions, I think that's the perfect way to start that. That's why, I mean, this is a great example.
Yeah, and I would also say just being an example and starting, change always starts with us. And so it starts with me, and then it starts with my set, those that hang around me, and those kind of things. And so that is as infectious as the negative things. And so I think if students start with themselves and be that example and resist, those temptations and of what a lot of others are maybe doing, I think that in itself, they can be an advocate for nonviolence.
All right, we'll take one more question. I have a question from @Vadrana. What factor can immediately decrease all the violence in the neighborhoods?
I would say a factor that can immediately decrease violence in the neighborhoods is people just taking a stand. Sometimes, you see things happen and you think, oh, I can't do anything. Well, if the whole neighborhood has that mentality, then you're not going to do anything. But if the neighborhood or even just one person has, the mentality of saying, I don't want to be around this anymore, and they take a stand, then the person over here says, well, maybe I should do that. I'm tired of it too. And then they take a stand. And then it's this domino effect. Next thing you know, your neighborhood is improving. And, one neighborhood can influence another neighborhood, and next thing you know, we've got a whole district of improvement.
Okay. All right, speaking of neighborhoods, there are a lot of neighborhoods in the city where there's a lot of violence. Some of these include like Michigan and Rural, 38th and Illinois, 30th and Keystone, Hallville, and those areas. What about these areas what about these areas cause the violence?
Well, I really think violence can happen anywhere. I think we see concentrated numbers, and I think for various reasons. As I said, there are varying factors, and I think the issue of lack of education, the issue of lack of jobs, unemployment or underemployment are factors that all play into it. Unfortunately, violence can take place anywhere, and that's just the society that we live in. I think, though, we have to continue to talk to people to say that's not the avenue, that's not the way. We have to continue to show people that there are those that come out of those neighborhoods that haven't resulted into violence. So that is not the only avenue, and I think we just have to kind of stay at it.
I would like to add that, excuse me, possibly the lack of resources could be something. Like Officer said, sometimes when kids don't have things to do, they tend to get into some mischief. Well, if they knew some programs that they could take part in, it would deter some of that. Also, even adults. Sometimes adults, there are things in the world that get us stressed out. Having some adult issues, whether it be bills, lack of a job, or some other adult issues. Well, there are some resources out there that we can take advantage of to, kind of lessen the burden. Sometimes we don't know, and so there are some adults that take part in, other issues, take part in other actions, such as, maybe drugs or alcohol and this, that, and the other. So if we understand resources we have to help alleviate problems that come about, then, maybe we can change some things.
We'll be right back after this break with more discussion from our panelists. Welcome back to the Tech Town Hall series. We'll now take a question from the live audience.
Hi, my name is Brittany Reedy. My question is directed to Mr. Mims and Pastor Ellis. Do you believe that law enforcement reacts quickly enough to lower class neighborhoods or neighborhoods that just might have a higher crime rate?
Well, I'll start and say yes. In fact, the law enforcement actually has areas, and it's a double-edged sword, because on one hand, they may mark these areas that have, let's say, a higher crime rate, let's say. And so they go to those areas and they kind of watching those areas, and then some people go, well, why are they bothering us? And why are they? So it's like, okay, we're trying to help. And so I think a lot of times officers, the police really want to be supportive and they want to do, but the police can't do it all. So the short answer, I think, is yes. I think they are very attentive in trying many ways, multiple ways of lowering the crime rate, especially in the areas that look like to be problem areas.
I would also agree and say yes, they do react in a timely manner. One thing that we have to understand is it's not just, so to speak, our section that is having the issue. There may be a problem arising, you call 911 and need police assistance. Unfortunately, there are other things that happen, and so maybe we're spread out a little bit, and so it takes a little longer than we expect or maybe that we need. So I think we need to take that into consideration. Our police force does react in a swift manner. They do the best that they can, I believe. However, we just have to, sometimes be patient. Unfortunately, our emergency is not the only emergency occurring.
Officer Waller, you have anything to say?
I know this summer the police department, well, actually, as of about a year ago, the police department changed it the way that it runs the districts. We've moved into a zone concept where we have actually taken crime statistics, and from that we've gathered which are the city's hot spots. They now man those areas with the most officers that they have available. That may be in one area 5 officers, that may be 4 officers, and then there's another factor that's coming into play as far as manpower, how many officers we actually have that are available to take those runs. So I think we are doing the best we can. We are using science to become even more efficient with fewer resources, and I think our actual response time is a lot lower than what it was, say, 5-10 years ago. So I think we're doing the best that we can. And I think a lot of people have to understand that by the time an officer gets a dispatch run, it's already been sent to a call center, typed up, sent to someone else, then dispatched, and the officer responds and then has to go to the place. So there's usually there's some time in between in that process. So I think in a perfect world we'd all be able to call 911 and get there within 30 seconds, but I wish we could, but we're doing the best we can.
Okay, we'll take another question from the audience.
My name is Dasha Thomas, and this is directed towards Coach Mims and Officer Wally. How do you feel, in your opinion, how violence can be triggered throughout school?
Can you repeat the last portion of that?
How violence can be triggered throughout school?
How violence can be triggered throughout a school?
Yes.
Like I said earlier, I'm 12 years removed from high school. In my day, it was word of mouth and through notes. You guys have cell phones with text messaging, you have Twitter, you have Facebook, you have YouTube, you have a lot of things where you guys can push arguments and build frustrations and bullying. So I think some of that stuff is able to be done in school while you're in classrooms, not in front of people, then at home in your neighborhoods. So it's like there's a never-ending, once you're targeted, there's you don't get a break. You're getting it in school, you're getting it on social media, you're getting it in the neighborhood. So I think those are mainly the ways that it's pursued or targeted in school is via social media. and at home in the neighborhoods bringing it in?
I would say it's a mix between peer pressure and possibly bullying, as Officer stated. Peer pressure wise, if someone does something to you, I hear kids say, well, I don't want to be no punk. I don't want them to think I'm soft. Well, unfortunately, at this point in time in students' life, some people are still trying to establish themselves, identity-wise. They want to find out who they are and, grow from it and find out, just what they can do and what they're about. Some people are still establishing friendships, and, image is important as a teenager. As far as bullying, sometimes, a person may be having a stressful day and now they want to pick on someone. Misery loves company, and, unfortunately, bullying is a major issue, not only in the state of Indiana, but across the nation. Statistics tell 160,000 students a day are stay at home from school in fear of going to school from being bullied. And out of that 160,000, 43%, when they do return to school, are afraid to even go to the restroom for fear of being bullied. So peer pressure and bullying are two major components in which I believe that can trigger violence in school.
All right, welcome back to the Tech Town Hall Forum on Youth Violence and How It Affects Us. We'll take another question from the audience.
My name is Six Russell, and I'm a senior here at Arsenal Tech High School. We were focused on the bullying, like people who are causing bullying. What about the victims? What do you say about the victims from being bullied? What they can do to either help prevent it or get away from it in a peaceful, calmly manner?
As far as the victim being bullied, I would say, actually, I'll just go ahead and say it. Here at Tech High School, we're about to, actually, I'll start off with the district. The district IPS has taken bullying very seriously. By October 4th, the entire district, the students are going to go through some bullying training, well, bullying education wise. I know here at Tech High School, starting today with this initiative here, we're going to roll out bullying prevention across this campus. For the next few weeks during advisory, we're going to go through some bullying prevention strategies, and this will also help the victim and give him or her some tools to take a stand for themselves and be an advocate for themselves. A lot of people who are victims do not know how to handle the bully, and we're going to educate our students here about how to handle bullies and conduct themselves in situations in a nonviolent manner.
Okay, we'll take another question from the audience.
Hi, I'm Ivy, and my question is, what can schools do to control the violence?
Well, I think schools. I think this kind of piggies back on the last question too. I think they have to be responsive, and I think programs that Tech is instituting, and I think throughout the district, and I think everybody has a heightened sensitivity to the issue of bullying. And I think for victims, if you think you're being bullied, you have to resist the temptation of being quiet, not being a snitch. Let somebody know there are resources out there, there are people to help you, and it's not supposed to happen. You have to say to your mind, this is not right, it's not supposed to happen, and I'm not going to accept it. So,
I think that's an excellent way of dealing with it. I think an easy way to deal with it is just the teachers alone getting out in the hallways. When teachers get out in the hallway and identify situations, speak up, speak to the students directly. I think the teachers are going to be the front line in that. They have to take some ownership in what's going on in the school and what's going on between the students. So I would say that we need to express to some of the teachers to get out of the classroom when they see stuff, say something. Don't always leave it on the students to do it.
I just want to chip in and educate. We need to educate our students and staff on what is acceptable and what's unacceptable. And then once we have educated students and staff on what's acceptable and unacceptable, then we have to follow up by executing that and holding students accountable for what they do. And also with that, the students have to want to take a stand, and they have to want to, defend themselves in a nonviolent manner by saying, hey, this isn't right, what you're doing is not right, and I'm not going to accept it. And once we do that, then we can start to change the culture.
All right, it's time for another break. When we come back, we'll take questions from Twitter again. All right, looks like we're out of time with our discussion today. I'd like to give a special thanks to our panelists today, Officer Mike Wally, coach and staff member Mr. Mims, and Pastor Ellis, and everyone who just joined our discussion. Violence in our community affects everyone in some way, whether it's being afraid to go outside or afraid to go downtown. Instead of waiting for someone to take the initiative, how about you take it? Be proud and let people know what you believe in and be the difference maker.